Welcome to Đồng Nai Radio and Television Station. Here come to the news today. In the context of global economy and trade still facing complicated developments of COVID-19 pandemic, bilateral trade turnover between Vietnam and the European Union (EU) still grew higher than before the beginning of the pandemic. That's because the businesses take advantage of opportunities from Vietnam-EU Free Trade Agreement. According to the Ministry of Industry and Trade, the EVFTA is considered a saving for Vietnam during the COVID-19 pandemic, helping Vietnam export growth, contributing to the economic development, and the prices in Vietnam take advantage of the tax incentives to increase the competitiveness of goods. After a year of implementing the agreement, the two-way trade turnover between Vietnam and the EU reached over 54 billion USD. The value of export reached 104.94 billion USD, up 11.3%, and imports reached 103.31 billion USD, up 14%. Vietnam has become the EU's largest partner in the ASEAN. The products that Vietnam most exports to the EU are textiles, footwear, rice, coffee, vegetables, and seafoods. For Đồng Nai, the EU is one of the 4 largest export markets. The Ministry of Health has just issued specific instructions on isolating people returning from pandemic areas. Specifically, for those who have received 2 full doses of vaccines or recovered from COVID-19 within 6 months by the time they return to their hometown, they will self-monitor their health at home and place at residence for 7 days from the day of return. For those who have not given enough doses, they will be isolated at home, where they stay for 7 days from the day they return to their localities, continue to self-monitor health for the next 7 days, and always implement the 5K regulations. Test on the first and the 7th day of the day of return to localities. Those who have not been vaccinated against COVID-19 will be isolated for 14 days from the day of return to their localities. Continue to monitor health for the next 14 days and strictly implement the 5K regulation. Test for SARS-CoV-2 on the first 7 and 14 days from the day of return. The monitoring team of the People's Council of Bien Hoa City has just organized to supervise the City Department of Natural Resources and Environment on the implementation of classification of domestic solid waste as source in the city. Bien Hoa City's Department of Natural Resources and Environment says that by classifying domestic solid waste as source, Bien Hoa has so far has nearly 2,400 trash cans equipped at agencies, units, schools, and traditional markets. In addition, the unit has distributed over 250 containers of infectious waste to wards and communes. People's Committee of Wards and Communes mobilized and developed garbage collection to households, agencies, and units, those which people grasp the benefits of the program. After 13 years of implementation, Bien Hoa has 135,000 households participating in the classification, reaching the rate about 63%. Over 200,000 households registered to take out the garbage and pay garbage collection fees, reaching 95.39%. Residents of the 26th Conference of the Party to United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change (COP26) in Glasgow, United Kingdom, Alok Sharman, announced the end of this event on 13 November with agreement between nearly 200 countries and at limiting global temperature rise. The agreement was approved after a last-minute change related to coal content, which were opposed by many weak countries, demanding a definite statement on the policy to end funding for fossil fuels. After the change to the language related to the coal, the residents of the COP26 hammered the signal that agreements were approved after more than 2 weeks of negotiations. The final agreement to be approved will implement Article 6 of Paris Agreement, adopted in 2015, which establishes rules that allow countries to partially meet climate goals by purchasing carbon emission certificates from other countries. France is making the 6th anniversary of the terrorist attacks in the Paris when Islamic State IS fighters killed 130 people and wounded 400 people in coordinated attacks on the theater, bars, restaurants, and stadiums. On November 13, 2015, parties related to the Islamic State group launched a series of attacks on public places in France's capital. The attacks are considered the deadliest tragedies in France post-World War II. French Prime Minister Jean Castex and officials stood in silence in memory of the victims. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, who is visiting France, placed flowers in front of the cafes in Paris, one of the locations of terrorist attacks. France is trying the defendants involved in the attack. The only surviving attacker, Salah Abdeslam, appeared in court along with the 13 other defendants. The trial is expected to last until May 2022. That was all the news today. Thanks for watching us. Have a good time. Goodbye.